o'clock, the November Committee of the Whole meeting. Roll call.
Strobush.
Here.
Van Blaricom. Leonard.
Here.
Isaacson.
Here.
Platham.
Here.
Elkin.
Here.
Okay, we'll move into public comment. Is there any public comment? Anyone? No, okay. Well, I've got a few things that I'll talk about. Shop small, or keeping it local basically on Saturday all day. Let's support our downtown businesses. It's been a rough couple of years, and let's support them in the best way that we can. Next Tuesday, we also have a lot of activities happening around town. 4:30 is Santa Claus. Then we go into the chili feed over at the fire hall from 5 to 8. We've got light up parade at 6. A bonfire around 8 o'clock after the chili feed. So come on down to Amory and have some fun on Tuesday night. So, excellent. All right, I guess we'll move into the department head report. City Administrator Patty.
Can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. Now that Keller Avenue is open, the emphasis is being put on the new Amory City Center for discussion. The project is coming together, and the architect and project manager are still saying the completion date will be December 24th. City Hall will start moving into the new area on December 28th. Our hope is that we'll be up and running in a week or so after the move. That being said, I'm unsure as to how our January council meeting will run. My thought is to move our regular council meeting out a week or so. I will keep everybody apprised of the change of date. I want to have everybody who will be taking up residence in the new city center to start thinking about an open house. I know it is Love Your Library month in February, and that seemed the most obvious time to celebrate our new home. More discussions will take place with everyone involved, and we can let the public know our plans. I, along with Chief Tom Marson, attended the WPELRA supervisor training in Eau Claire on October 28th. We learned a tremendous amount of information that will serve us well. The 2022 budget was advertised for the City of Amory in its City of Amory budget hearing notice. The council, as well as Ben, our auditor, and myself, will discuss the budget tomorrow at the budget hearing, where the final budget will be approved. The budget hearing will take place at 5 p.m. Tax time is starting. I'm in the process of training Ben, our new clerk treasurer, the steps needed for the city's tax bills. The tax bills are usually complete by Christmas. Our goal is to have them ready by then. So Merry Christmas. Any other questions?
Great, thank you, Patty. Ben?
All right. Well, people are jumping the gun. I'm getting a lot of absentee ballot apps here at the city. If you want to do it online, you can't do it to the first of the year. The Elections Commission will not update the website. So just come down here and we'll get you taken care of. I worked with Paul Schaefer to rehaul his entire portion of the website. He had like a dozen videos, all sorts of stuff he wanted on there. So his website looks completely different. Go check it out. There's some cool stuff. Especially pertinent for you guys. Anyone that wants to run for local office, you can draw your papers in December. So December 1st, and then they have to be back by the first Tuesday in January, which is the 4th. I guess the 4th.
I think so.
My current emergency management class will end on December 6th, and I can't wait. And I will resume them in January. Also, I resumed taking elections training. I have to have 6 hours a year. I still have 2-ish hours to go by the end of the year. And then we're getting ready for the upcoming move. Taylor has been working really hard. She's boxed up. I don't even know how many records, but she's done a really good job. Any questions?
No, great, thank you. Please, Chief Marson.
Good evening. October, the last 6 weeks have been very busy for the police department there with several investigations that were taking place there. Some have been resolved and some are remain open. We also had numerous juvenile calls along with reports of damage to Michael Park and North Park areas on separate occasions have also consumed a significant amount of our time. Officers have identified some of the juveniles involved and are taking enforcement action. And then I want to extend a thanks to many supportive parents who understand the seriousness of their actions of their children as well there. Keller Avenue has been open for a couple of weeks now, and we have received complaints of vehicles going through the 4-way stops at the intersections with Birch and Broadway on Keller there. Been monitoring that area there and have written a few citations there, but it appears to be getting better there. We're also awaiting the at the intersection with the traffic lights to be put in soon there. Today we had a highway traffic safety meeting there, and it sounds like they're still on track for late November there, but they were gonna check for sure. Along with that, we've had pedestrian crossing concerns in the downtown area there. I think that many of you have been out at night, noticed the darkness in the corner of Birch Street there, especially there. And my understanding is that when the traffic lights come up, they have lights underneath them that are gonna light that area up as well there, so. Winter parking's been into effect since the beginning of November, and we've been issuing warnings nightly, starting tomorrow night, 17th, we're gonna transition to parking citations, and that's the way to avoid a citation is, remember, there's no overnight parking between 2 and 6 a.m. on any city street until April 15th. Certainly, if there's an emergency, it needs, an emergency arises, such as a vehicle breakdown or additional visitors at maybe the holiday season, contact their police department prior, and we'll do everything that we can to let that happen there. We also continue to pack and prepare for the move to the city center in late December. We will be attempting to sell and discard assorted items that we will not be able to utilize or that there's not space for the new facility. An online sale of bigger items, and we can go through social media, use plans for the Fruits Week in December, along with a small item sale that we're gonna hold in our garage likely the following week. Any questions at all?
No, great.
Thank you.
Fire Chief Kalen?
Good evening, council, community. Just a couple reminders. I want to make sure that everybody, now that we're closing up our homes, do due diligence with your furnace checks, make sure your furnace is in good operating condition. Please check your CO2s, CO2 detectors and smoke alarms for batteries. I know that was done in October, but I'm just reminding everybody as we close up our buildings, it's more important. I wanted to remind our community with the opening of Keller, with the 1 lane each way. There are 2 bays in our station that we still have to back into. So when a fire truck approaches the station, if they have the red lights on, we'd appreciate if people stop for us so that we can swing out and then back into the station. We don't have warning lights, but red lights should mean something. So we'd appreciate your patience with us when we're backing our rigs in, especially the big ladder truck. Wanted to let you know that fire inspections are ongoing. We're doing pretty well with it. Struggling finding firefighters to help us out. So I may be asking a professional firefighter retired from the St. Paul Fire Department to help out this year. And then the last reminder, and I appreciate the comment earlier, the chili feed is this Tuesday night, 5 to 8 at the station. We look forward to having everybody there. And we're asking everybody to be polite. If you're not vaccinated, please bring a mask along and wear it when you're not eating. We'll have as many precautions as we can in place to keep everybody safe. If there are any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Thanks. Jeff Mahoney, Director of Public Works. It allows you to walk the runway a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I had a couple weeks off, so not a whole lot that I can say. The parks are blown out. Everything, docks are pulled, so they're done. We do have a few outhouses around that are porta potties, I guess, the way to put it, that they can use at North Park. The guys are getting all the equipment ready for snow, as we had, and just reminder, just give them a little bit of a break when they're driving and plowing. If you see them out there, watch out for them a little bit too. Christmas decorations on Main Street are up. The Christmas trees are up in the park. Who's ever setting those up, wants to decorate them, they're ready. And the main grid screen got put in Friday night at the sewer plant. So the panel's in, that's working. And any other questions?
No, great, thank you.
Thank you.
And no one's here from the library?
Can
Oh.
I maybe give an update?
Sure.
The library board meeting was last night, which I attended. And as I'm sure most everybody is aware, that current director Amy Stormberg has put in her resignation. And a new interim director has been appointed, Heather Wayarda. has been appointed as the interim director while we seek a new director. And they're also planning for the move, working on dates as far as how many days or weeks they're going to be closed in order to get everything moved. It's sounding right now like the closing will be December 13th through, I think it was January 10th. I'm sorry, I don't have my calendar here in front of me, but closed for approximately 5 weeks to enable the move from there to the new location. They also will be selling some old shelving and a few minor pieces of furniture that just aren't going to fit. So be on the lookout for those types of things too.
Good, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, we'll move on to our second agenda, potential change order for Keller Avenue reconstruction, concrete compression strength. You want to kick us off, Eric?
All right, so we've talked about this at the past two meetings, I think, council meeting in November and the committee of the whole meeting in October. And essentially, I guess just to bring up to date what's happened. The concrete on Keller Avenue, for the most part, the majority of the tests have failed the 28-day compressive strength test. In the spec, it was very clearly called out as 4,500 PSI, and many of the tests were, I would say on average, between 500 and 1,000 PSI below that, that 4,500 PSI mark. We had started talking about a potential deduct at previous meetings. An idea was brought up to pay for materials and not to pay for, or to pay for the labor part of it, not the materials portion of it. And so as part of that discussion, I took that back to A1 and they asked for some results, some financial hard numbers to go along with that, which I sent to all of you and as well to A1. Basically just breaking out the difference from the bid prices on what was materials based off the invoices that Sampson Concrete provided from Sunstone, and what is labor on those bid items. And so that sheet that you have in front of you kind of breaks it down by curb and gutter and the 5 and 7 inch flat work and the colored concrete. And ultimately would come to a deduct of just over $166,000 for, and that's what is considered just the deficient materials on the job. So all of the days that had a passed test were pulled out of that quantity already. So this is where we stand currently. I see tonight there's representatives from Sampson Concrete, A1 and Sunstone here. So I think it would be appropriate to give them a chance to say anything that they would like, if that is
Yeah, that's
something that council
fine.
would
Yep,
like.
yeah,
So
that'd be great. So I don't maybe hear from who first, or you all choose. It's fine with me.
whoever wants to go first.
Just, Eric, one quick
Yes.
question.
Yes.
You said that 166,
I would think.
the final number, that's just material costs. That's not labor. That's not,
That's correct.
okay.
Yep. If
That's
you-
why I thought you said I just,
Material
that's-
costs for the deficient, so
And
it
that's
does not.
just the deficient stuff.
right.
So you would still be paying the full bid price for material that was good, or that had a pass test that day.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the way you have that is, Eric, is that anything that's failed, that's 100% of that is gonna not be paid for. Is that how you got that figured?
100% of the portion that was materials price.
Right, of the materials,
Yeah,
right,
Yep.
so 100% of that, okay.
yes. So the portion of your bid item that was labor would still be paid on that. So
Okay, and I guess Samstone's defense and our defense, that, could you?
Are you
let everybody know what
Samson?
Those percentages are that you had
Okay.
figured here first, and then we can just talk about that.
So for curb and gutter, we figured out that based off your bid price, well, based off just the math in general, at an 8-inch flag depth, you should be able to pour 14.09 linear feet with 1 cubic yard of material. And so we multiplied the 1409 times your bid price of 1150, came out with how much money you would make on that amount for 1 cubic yard poured. And then based off your invoices from Semstone that you provided, we took off $110 per cubic yard from that total amount. And that's what this breakdown is. So it would break down to material being $110 a cubic yard, labor being $52 a cubic yard on your curb and gutter. So the deduct for materials would be 67.9% on that for curb and gutter. We went through the same process for 5 and 7-inch flat work. That one was a little more difficult because it's hard to, I know you guys just pour 5 and 7 together out of the same trucks all the time, then that obviously is standard. So I took the quantities based off of what we had measured and figured out that about 12% of the job was 7-inch concrete. And so just applied that to it, the 5 to 12%. It goes under the 7% bid item and 5, or the other 88% goes under the 5-inch bid item. And so working that same math through, we used $112 a cubic yard from based off your invoices from Semstone. The total deduct for 5-inch was 37.6%. The total deduct for 7% was 39%. Colored concrete, went through the same process there. The materials on that account for, well, there was 2 things. So there's a regular just colored concrete bid item, and then we had a repour item for like an increased amount for that downtown area. And so on the original flat work price, it would be 43.1% is materials. And because the materials price didn't change, only the labor changed on the repour, the materials account for 31.7% of the bid price.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Semstone talk first, and then we can, give our opinions about what's happening here.
Well, Sunstone would request that we be able to do our own investigation into the flow strengths. And by doing that, we would hire an independent testing agency to come out and do cores, drill cores in the concrete, to test the cores to see what the in-place strength actually is. And so that's a good request.
So right now, how many cores have been taken? Which one you
I
guys
think
did
there's
and the other one,
16 or 17 is what we took so far,
plus the cylinders before, right?
and plus all the cylinders.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a
I
job.
mean, that should be pretty sufficient in that area, shouldn't it?
Well, we have some trouble with some of the testing that's been going on. For example, the cores, they weren't done the right size. They were done too small. They should be 3.7 inches minimum, or 2.7 inches. If they want to be smaller, they have to specify why in the test results. They don't specify why. Usually it's because there's rebar in the way or the slab is too thin, but in this case, that shouldn't be an issue.
I can't hardly hear you, but did you say that the cores that they're
Yeah.
contesting did that they're too small?
Yeah, the ASTM,
That the 3-inch, they did 3-inch, that's not big enough?
2.7, they're supposed to be 3.7 minimum, according to the ASTM C42, which is the standard procedure for following that.
First time hearing that.
So that, and plus you're supposed to do 3 at each point to determine if the core is low or area is low in strength, and they didn't do that, they just did 1, because sometimes you're supposed to have 3, for one reason is because sometimes you'll get an air bubble or air pocket in there, and that can make the strength really low. And so if you have 2 others, they can determine if you just said air pocket or if it's something else going on there. So some of them are really low, like I might hit an air pocket, so some of that is what we think is going on. We just don't, they just didn't follow ASTM procedures with the cylinders or the cores, so that's why we request we do our own investigation, hire our own testing agency to do testing to determine whether it's
How much
coming out.
time, how much time do you think that would take?
Well, you take the cores, we get somebody out here pretty soon, and then it takes 5 days for the cores cured properly. So a week or something.
How many cores are you requesting?
Well, we'd like to do it in low strength areas that have been determined. in those areas.
Which is almost the entire project.
So there's a lot, yeah.
So you're talking
Well,
hundred and
we
twenty
could start
cores.
small and then work our way up, but I mean, our thinking is, we'll start small and see if the strings are actually there if they're done properly.
So how do you test them now when the testing time, this is my ignorance on the process, but the testing was at 28 days. We're well beyond 28 days. So how do you retrograde test that?
Well, really, you're just looking for ultimate strength, right? I mean, you want 4,500 ultimate regardless. of-
I
No,
don't
we
think
want,
so.
we want at 28 days. That's what the spec of the project was.
Well, I mean, you can look at it, I mean, that's kind of the specifics of it, but I mean, technically your concrete's good. I mean, I know you want 4,128 days, but technically from a quality durability standpoint, I mean, if you get 4,500, you're getting your pre-sub durability for ECI. I mean, you're getting the strength you need, durability.
When you look at the cure curve and its cure rate at, 28 days, and now you take it out this far, what's the percentage difference that you would expect to find?
Well, the thing is temperature affects it a lot, so I
Sure.
mean, cold temperatures gonna slow it down. I mean, try to predict, but it's gonna be.
Right, so the 28-day measurement, it would continue to get stronger as it cures, but if it's already below that, then the curve is gonna be lower also. So
It would be lower, yes.
the
So
measurement was.
you're right. I mean, your 28-day, trying to go back and figure that out. The goal of meeting a durable concrete at 4,100 would be met. I mean, the goal that you're looking for would be met by doing what we'd be doing.
You want 45.
Yeah, 4,500 is what we do. So I don't know who determines that. That's somebody who.
If-
who determines.
I don't, can I talk from right here? Is that okay?
Is that fine?
Can you pick it up?
Could we give them a mic?
Sure. It's just so we make sure it gets on the
Oh, sure.
Zoom and the
Yeah.
recording.
I'd come up to, but I got a bad hip and bad back. I don't want to stand there. I don't have to. Question would be is if you, is this on? Yeah. Anyway, one of my questions would be if you want to do some more cores, and the concrete was supposed to test at 4,500 PSI. So what happens when you do these cores and then they only reach 3,500 or 3,800, then what?
Well, if they don't meet the required strength. Yeah, then we look at what we'd have to do to resolve the issue. I mean, if they want to deduct or whatever. Yeah.
These cores that you want to do with additional ones, if you're saying there should have been 3 or something that American Testing didn't do, and they only did 1, were you thinking of doing the cores at those same locations, or you want to do them at different locations?
We could start with those locations.
And how big of a core do you want to do? Diameter?
3.7.
How much?
3.7 inches minimum. according to-
3.7?
Yeah.
So you're gonna do 3 more cores in one section of sidewalk? So what happens if those cores fail? Shouldn't that section of sidewalk maybe be taken out, replaced? You don't have a bunch of spots all over in that sidewalk?
Well, you could, I mean, typically just fill it in.
No, because you don't have a nice looking sidewalk after you do a bunch of cores in there, I mean, now you got a bunch of patches in there.
Right.
I mean, I guess that's just a thought that should be brought up if they're gonna do more cores.
I mean,
And I guess that would be Eric or the council to think about that too, but
sometimes you get a match pretty good, but yeah, I mean, you'll notice them no matter what. It's a
you
matter
can get
of-
the,
you can get a
the
pretty
spots you
close
put back in.
sometimes.
What do you put back into the hole?
Just
Set 45,
Yeah, you can do that, or you can.
or what do you
mix up
guys
your-
use?
And how about the colored concrete?
Well, we don't actually put it in, we just, I mean, the contractor does it, usually sometimes they get a,
No, but if you're gonna do the core though, I'm asking, what are you guys gonna put in it?
well, we usually just try to get a concrete mix that's similar to the one they put in place, use that mix. So it matches as close as
Okay.
possible. So what we do.
One of the things maybe you should mention, or, because of the cores failing, my thoughts are, and I'm we're here because, we know that, this should be 28 days. We know that, you guys are paying for a good product and we're here just to support that. And we want to know whatever becomes of this, how long of a warranty should there still be? If you take this deduct, I guess that's a question that should be brought up. Then, and secondly, is if we are still going to continue to have a 1-year warranty, then who pays for that? If it comes out of us and we go back to Semstone, which right now that's an issue probably between us to find out, but I think that even though that the cores, if they do meet, after 28 days, say we end up with 45 or 47, is that still really fair to Semstone or to us to still take that full deduct? Because you still got a good product, even though it didn't meet 28 days, but it met that product in 4 months. Which they do get, the concrete does get stronger to a certain point, but it's only a really small percentage that still starts to get climb. And at some point then over the years, it'll start to decline, But is it fair? And I'm just asking, is it fair that you have a new product out there and there's still that big of a deduct because it didn't meet 28 days? If he does these cores again and they pass, and meet all of that, is it really fair to them or to us to take that big of a deduct? I agree that there should be a deduct, but I'm not so sure that it should be that much. That's a pretty big percentages on all of them. I think there still should be a deduct because it didn't meet 28 days. There's no question about that. But you still have a product out there that is still, I think, is still a good product. I guess we really won't know. So maybe one of the things on this deduct thing, and this is just a thought, maybe you don't have to decide today if he wants to take more cores. Maybe that money should be put into an escrow account, whatever the deduct is, and look at that down the road and see what, how it's holding up after 1 year or 2 years or whatever you guys think. Just another thought.
Well, and that was gonna be a question that I was gonna ask is what, 2 questions. What is the current warranty on the sidewalk that's there? And if you start drilling more cores in it, what is that going to do to the ongoing strength of the concrete? And is it going to fail quicker because it's not one whole piece and then you now have 4 holes in the middle of a section?
Yeah, you're
2
creating more intrusion points for ice melt, but
Salt and.
Question,
maybe let's get an answer to these 2
I have a
questions.
question. So when you guys spec the concrete to Samstone, did your spec specifically say 4,500 PSI?
Yes.
Because ours did say 4,500 PSI.
I've got a copy of the spec with me. If anyone wants to
Okay,
see it.
and so the testing outfit that came in to do the testing, are they a nationally recognized firm for testing concrete car samples?
Did you not recognize what now again?
Are they nationally recognized? I mean, because we have a difference here. The guys that you were talking about said 3-inch car. Well, if it was 2.9 or whatever, who knows if they use a 3-inch bit or if they, you lose a 1/10 of an inch on the bit. And now you're saying 3.7 is the minimum. So
I'm not sure where that spec come from.
who's the expert here?
If that's a DOT spec, I'm not sure, but American Testing should have, they're certified for that. I guess they should have, huh?
They've been around a long time.
Yeah, they've been around for years and.
Yeah, I mean, I got the spec right here. It's pretty clear. You use 3.7
And that's Wisconsin spec?
unless you got some reason that you need to state in the report why you didn't, which would be rebar in the way or it's too.
So, but this can't be the first time that you would have run afoul of a 3-inch core versus a 4-inch core, basically. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you're nationwide, but I know you're all over Wisconsin, like, the Packers, but why is this something that we're just here, that folks are just hearing about now?
Yeah, I don't know. Usually when I get reports from American Engineering Testing, it does that, yeah, they're 3.7. It's very rare, unless it's like in a, some structure where there's rebar going everywhere.
But
pretty
it's
rare.
also rare because if they use American Testing, obviously this doesn't happen on every job. So in the past, they've been acceptable for doing core tests and they passed, but now they didn't. So what do you, I mean,
We would just like to confirm what's going, what's going on. I mean, they followed two different things that didn't follow the ASTM. And so, what else didn't they follow? We just want to make sure, yes, have somebody we trust and then get out there and just do a few.
Okay.
Maybe we just start off small. We do it in some areas where they got really low and we go in and see actually where we get.
So are you gonna, if you did those cores though, are you gonna send those cores, like what we did, I paid to have an independent, I could have did those cores myself, but I didn't want to be involved with that. I wanted an independent company to do them. So if you do those cores, shouldn't there really be an independent
Oh, yeah,
company?
we definitely.
Yeah, there'd be an independent company that would do those cores as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
Definitely,
and then they take them to their lab and
yeah.
then get the results?
Yes.
Okay.
Kevin, do you want to talk a little bit about those initial cylinders too, just so everybody's on the same page of the test results? Some of the ones you see,
Initial
the field
cylinders.
cleared, stuff like that.
We talk about that ASTM procedure. The ASTM procedure says that you gotta have the cylinders back in the lab at a certain kind of a curing condition after 48 hours to making the cylinders. These are out for weeks, some of them, days.
But there's over 70, and that's true, but again, that has really nothing, no bearing on what's going on. We did the cores, if the cores fail, that's the true test. That's the concrete that's on the ground. You can take a cylinder, and I'm not sure if any of you board members know that, but I'm a firm believer in the old day where you keep the cylinder, you pour the concrete there, the cylinder stays right there for 28 days. And you keep covered. Now what they do is they take that cylinder and they bring it to a lab, and it's at 72 degrees, it sits into water at 72 degrees, and you really get a false reading. It's not really the concrete that's on the ground. So he's bringing up that, which I think that right now that's immaterial. Right now, there's many of them that did get to this lab. There was maybe 3-4 of them that actually didn't get to the lab right away within 48 hours, and we'll admit that. But how do you get 70 or 80 of them that all failed? So, and then of course, if you get the cores, that you're gonna do these cores, that's the true test. And the cores that we did is a true test.
Well,
And
except they were done wrong in 2 ways.
well, right, and that's what, if you have the spec for that, I think there should be copies made, so they have that, and we'd like to see that too, because I've been in it for 42 years, and I guess I've never seen that you couldn't take a core at 3-inch. You're saying the spec for Wisconsin is, where did you get that spec from, DOT or where?
It's ASTM-C,
What's that?
ASTM-C 42. It's an American standard testing method that pretty much everybody
Okay.
follows.
But the other thing was, we had sent an email out, and again, I'm not trying to throw anybody in the bus, that when we did those cores, that anybody from Semstone wanted to be there, they could be there with American Testing. Because they did it, they had bigger cores, they had bigger cores that they could have drilled at, but,
That email went to me, Marty.
yeah.
I got that email at 5:30, 6 o'clock at night for the next morning. If we would have had more notice, so I could have had personnel there, I would have. But I had all my other QC guys already going to jobs, including myself, Dave Cave, and Scott Sedol on jobs. We were that busy with big commercial work.
Right, I
If
know.
I would have had even 48 hours, I could have got personnel there.
But we didn't know that either.
Yeah, we
at the
just didn't
time,
have the- we
American
just didn't have
Testing
the
was giving
notice.
us the time, so.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I mean,
get
I would
that.
have loved to have somebody there, but I just couldn't pull it off with that short of notice.
So, but all the testing wasn't done on one day, right? So,
Those cores were.
The cores were,
Cores were all done in one
the
day.
actual, the 3-inch cores we did, those are all done in one day.
Mhm.
So every time that they poured concrete, they created cylinders, like either cores, I think you guys did all 6-inch cylinders on this.
Right, all six.
So they would create a cylinder that's about 6 inches and are they 8 inches, 12 inches high?
I think they're 12 inches high.
And so every day that they poured, they created 3 or 4 of those cylinders.
mhm.
And those are the ones that we've tested over time and have come back deficient. The cores that they're talking about now, they took some in, I think it was late October. They came out, drilled holes in the sidewalk and pulled those pieces out and had those actual pieces tested. So that's the difference between cores.
And that's the
That's
email
what
that you're
Silver was
referencing
on.
for that core drill. Okay.
Yeah.
Same page with two different tests.
So if you go ahead and do more testing and it still is deficient, what are we actually gaining? We're where we are right now. We don't gain anything. This is more or less between, the product that's delivered and the product that we have on the ground. So I'm not sure what we gain by having more testing. Just-
Right, and I guess I would even add on to that, if we did testing now, it's likely to pass, but it still didn't pass the spec to begin with. So you can't reverse ourselves back 160 days and do a test.
Well,
and
yeah,
say-
but if your spec is ASTM, to follow ASTM standards, and most of those cylinders didn't follow ASTM standards, how can you say that they're following spec, you know? Because the reason why you have a temperature, you know, ASTM requires you do a certain moisture and temperature throughout your curing period, because temperature and moisture affect strength. I mean, if you were to account for every single moisture variant and temperature variant, you have to use 10,000 meals of concrete every day to account for everything. That's why they say, okay, at this temperature, with this curing moisture content, we want 4,500, because otherwise you'd have really strong concrete every single time, and you know, then it'd be unaffordable. So that's why they do that, and that's why I'm saying these cylinders are on the field for so long. We don't know what kind of temperature they're under. I mean, they're under, in some cases, really cold and sometimes really hot. You know, so that's why we're saying we'd like to do kind of our own investigation. I mean, I think it would be fair for us to, you know, since ASTM wasn't followed, to be able to kind of at least do a little bit of testing to confirm or deny what's going on.
So another question, you guys just are finishing up a big project in Hudson? Right? A1 doing no?
New
Who, on the Richmond?
Yeah.
Okay. You use the same testing, is that pretty much the same spec as what we've,
I think it's only 4,000 PSI, that's right. That's 4,000, this is 45. It's not very often you do a 45, but you know, I mean, but you know, it's to each city, you know, what they want, you know, but usually it's 4,000 PSI.
which still wouldn't help us because a number of the samples didn't make 4,000 either, right?
And we did lots and lots of tests on this job. Like Eric said, you know, there's these 3 cylinders for every single load. But what I will say is that, you know, if Semstone wants to do those extra tests, I don't see really what that would hurt, other than, like I said, if there's, ends up being a bunch of holes there that you feel that you don't like, that it takes away from the product, like what she was saying, or maybe the strength, which I doubt that it will, but it's a possibility. But maybe then Semstone would be responsible to remove and replace those sections of sidewalk, so it still looks, you know, the same. But I would
Can they
say,
take them in
in
the
my
same,
mind,
take them in the same piece that you guys cored?
yeah, if they were gonna do the same piece, I don't know if that's what he wants to do, but wherever he would do it, if he's gonna do 3 cores in those areas, maybe that's something that if he would agree to, if you guys would be willing to let him do the cores, then maybe then they should be responsible to pay to remove those pieces and replace them and put them back in, because it'll be no cost to you.
Seems to me if we're gonna compare apples to apples, though, we have to take the new cores, the 4-inch cores out of the same piece
I agree.
that the 3-inch cores came from. Otherwise, you have no, I mean, you're trying to compare apples and bananas.
Right.
different-
Well, I think what Eric did do though, is he went and took the sections of, at stations, whatever stations they were, to find out where those failed, and that's where we did the core, so when we did the original
So
cylinders.
if you did 4 pieces of, you know, of sidewalk, and you did the same places where you guys did them, and those samples that, you know, if they're 4, you should see a significant difference. I mean, that'd give you 12 different samples, for instance. If you don't see any difference or very, you know, minuscule difference in them, what would be the point of going any further? Then you only have 4 pieces of sidewalk to replace, and each one would have 6 holes in it. So, I mean, that would be a definite
He would
replacement.
want to do the curb though as well, because the curb has got a deduct too, that's got 68% deduct, so we could do this, he could do the same areas again, just like you said, which I think that would be the route to go. And then if for some reason, you know, if you don't like the looks of it or whatever, that, and it'd be their responsibility to remove that and replace it, you know.
We just need your help with that, you know,
What's that?
we just need your help with that to let us know where to go. That'd be easy, yeah.
You mean as far
As far as the location of those where you want us to
Oh,
go.
yeah, they're all marked out there.
Just,
you know?
okay, that's, I just want to make sure that we're working together.
If that's, if they're
So,
agreeable
yep.
with that. And I think the reason why he wants to do that is, number one, we're talking a lot of money, you know. But the big thing is, we want to make sure that you end up with 20 years, 25 years, you have a good product, you know. So that's why I don't know, like say, for example, even if these cores would fail, you know, there's a lot of money you're taking as a deduct, but maybe that still should end up being into an escrow account. And for 5 years or for 10 years, and if you still got a good product, then Semstone or us should get that money back, you know? I mean, you got a good product there that's right there now. Who knows? Nobody knows right now really how long that's gonna last. You know, but is it fair to everybody to just take a big deduct like that when you still got a brand new product there? You know, so that's just my thought, you know, I mean, and I'm only one person, so I mean, and I think that's why they're here too, is that, you know, they're thinking that deduct is a lot, but that's, again, that's up to the council, how you wanna handle that, you know? What do you think that's a fair deduct or not?
What is the longevity of a 5-inch sidewalk at 4,500 PSI versus 4,000? Is there a year's noticeable difference? Can you tell us, yeah, it's only gonna perform at 66% and you got to replace it, you know, that much earlier, or what? How good is 4,000 versus 4,500?
To be honest with you, I don't think you're gonna find really any difference, because in all the years, in 42 years, all the DOT jobs that we do is all 4,000. Very, very seldom you see sidewalk or driveways done at 4,500 PSI. It's nice to have that, because you got 500 more pounds of powder, you know, in every yard of concrete. So in a 9-yard load, you know, you got 4,500 more pounds of that, and so you should end up with a stronger product. But over longevity, I've never really seen a whole lot of difference. Usually, and this is not only that, you've got concrete you're doing, I think it's all your sidewalks, all 5-inch, right? It's all 5-inch thick. So you got an overkill there as well, which I'm not saying that's bad, but it's just that product's gonna last a long time.
Can you give us an estimate?
What's
as to,
that?
like, can you give us an estimate as to length of
Oh,
time?
it
I have
should
no
not
idea.
last
I'm
you
not a
20 years,
sidewalk
15, 20 years, you know, your product before you have to, it's kind of like your blacktop, you know, I mean, usually when they go in and replace blacktop, that's how long you kind of figure, you know, so when you're figuring money in your budgets, you know, that's usually what it should be. It shouldn't be all busted up in 2-3 years. If it is,
It seems like
definitely a product.
It seems like where it might make the most difference would be the curb and gutter. The sidewalk probably doesn't have nearly the strain or the beating that the curb and gutter would take, so.
Well, the curb and gutter should have way more strength than the sidewalk, because
Yeah.
the machine has 2 big vibrators in there that's vibrating that concrete and consolidating that concrete to make it much better product. You know, and so it's got to be stronger so that curb will stand up. Otherwise, it'll just fall right over, you know. But both of them, I mean, both of them being at that 4,500, you know, if you get somewhere close to that, I just don't see, you know, that it's gonna last a long time. And I'm not just saying that, I'm saying that I want to see that product last as long, that's why we're here. Otherwise, we had a choice of not coming to the meeting, but I want to come because to let you guys know that we are concerned about it as well. We want to make sure you got a good product and it lasts for a long time. Just a matter of how do we take care of this and going forward, right? So that's why I think that they should have a chance to core that as well. And just to see if there is a difference, but do it in those same locations, like you said. And if you guys decide that it looks ugly and it's not passed right, and that, you know, the holes are not fixed right, then it should be that they should be taken out and put in new. But maybe wait to make a decision on that percentage tonight until after they get a chance to do the cores, and then you guys can decide at that point. If they fail, and if you think that should be the deduct, then that's what it is, you know.
Any advice from Jeff and Eric and based upon the discussion, or do you have more
My thought
questions?
is, They didn't meet the specs, and if they are gonna drill more cores or more holes in there and all, I think it should be in there that concrete does come out then, because you're gonna have 4 holes in there
Yeah,
in every spot. So if they're gonna do that, they have to replace it.
I agree.
Well, and just looking at these numbers here, and I don't know if anybody else has taken the time to do this, but just counting the numbers that are here, if you're saying 4,000 is average, you know, that's what you were doing in Richmond.
Well, actually,
Okay, can I just finish my comment?
sorry about that, go ahead.
So of the 5 and 7-inch flat work, only 7 of the 15 were more than 4,000. And only 2 of the curb and gutter were 4,000 or over. So there's still an issue there.
Well, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just like, you know, trying to compare the numbers and
Yeah, there's no question. There's
Still
supposed
less
to be a
than
deduct. I'm not
4,000.
saying.
So, no,
Yeah.
I totally understand and appreciate where you're coming from. So,
So,
But I would like to say one thing, there is a big difference, like you have, most contractors will come in and they'll say they do your driveway, you guys call up somebody and you have a contractor come and do your driveway. You know, your personal driveway, most of the time, those contractors will pour that with 3,000 PSI. That's just a 5-bag mix. Okay, and this stuff is actually a 7-bag mix. So, and you know, so to understand that is you have, if you have 2 bags or more than your private drive, you have two bags per yard. So in a 9-yard load, there's 18 more bags, and each bag is 95 pounds, you know. So there's that much more cement in there. So this here is way stronger than you would do, it should be anyway, way stronger than if you do your driveway at home. But there is some contractors will do 4,000, but there's lots of them just. do
But on the
3,000.
other hand, this curb and gutter is gonna take a beating for the next 30 years from a lot more traffic than what my driveway gets.
Right,
And I have pavers on my driveway and I hate them, so, but it's gonna take a lot more beating, it's gonna take a lot more water, it's gonna take a lot more salt. It's gonna take a lot heavier vehicles than a normal driveway would take, which is probably why they did the 4,500 pound spec in the first place, so it doesn't break down. I do have 2 questions, however. My first question, and this is open to anybody, I guess. So you drill a hole in the concrete today, you take your core sample, that concrete's been down for 75 days. Is there a way to extrapolate back whatever that final test result is, pass, fail, or whatever that numerical number is? Is there a way to extrapolate back to what it was in 28 days? Or is the curve so, you know, is the curing process so different that there is no way to really predict that number?
There's no way to predict that. The curing, because temperature and
Temperature,
moisture all affect.
well, but haven't you done multiple day tests of every single one of these? And so you know what the curve is at that particular location.
The only way to get a curve is to have multiple data points.
Right, and so you have that, so the curve could be applied
Yeah.
in these.
But it's gonna end up right back at that 28-day strength, because that's the curve that it's on. Like you have 7-day result, you have 28-day result, and you have a 100-day result.
Yeah. Right.
You've got 3 data points to fill your
Well,
curve. in.
and they're
So-
contesting the number that, you know, the 28-day number here is what they're contesting. So this number would not be able to be put into that curve.
Difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I went to public school, so I'm not.
You wanted to go
When I
so
was
far-
asked to be an
you wanted
engineer, I
go
said
so
I didn't
far
want
as
to drive a
chart-
train.
to chart the temperature and humidity for
So my
every
other
basin.
question is this, we've talked a lot, and I appreciate the contractors coming here because we wanted your input, we wanted your focus, you know, not that Eric was feeding us bad information, but it's good to hear this other information from everybody. But my other question is why? Why did this stuff fail potentially?
Well, we do have a lot of strengths. We use these are standard mixes. We use them a lot of other projects, and the strengths we have in the other projects are fine. So that's why, again, we suspect something's going on here. First of all, the curing was off. And probably to reiterate this, you know, you keep saying that the spec wasn't meant at 4,500 PSI. Well, I don't think we have very many cylinders that were tested according that we could say that 40 didn't meet 4,500 PSI. Not only was it curing off, but Jake was field tech out in the field. And he saw some things that weren't according to ASTM procedures either.
Like, what was that?
Do you guys have a log where you're saying all these cylinders were left out? Do you have this log down somewhere? I'm not.
Well, it's on the test report, so it says how long they're in the field. For one, but also the procedures. I don't know, Jake, what you saw.
Cylinders need to be kept in the cooler 60 to 80 degrees. They're never in a cooler. So
Which ones were, all of them?
I was only out there like 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
And just what I seen, just put it down. And
Was it between 60 and 80 those days? You have the times?
we have to go back on the days that we have.
I mean, the sun hitting on,
Before
the
it
sun
was
hitting on
60
bakes, so no, I mean, if you got the sun hitting on, then go away, well, whatever. You know,
But it's
then
not,
sure.
it's not ASTM is not, if the sun's all baking them.
It says they gotta be in the shade.
Okay, 16, 80. So do you have logs where it was in the sun?
Generates its own heat.
sun
We're
baked
just
them?
saying it's suspect. We aren't saying.
Okay,
for
if you're
sure.
calling out these cylinders though, really pointing the finger at us, not taking them properly, and you don't really have documentation.
I do have
supporting that.
documentation. I have all the strength results right here. If you want to look at them. All
Of how the
dates are right
cylinders
on.
were handled is what I'm saying, and where they're at and for how long. You guys don't have that,
We just have his eyewitness. Yes.
right? Exactly.
which, you know, I mean, it wasn't 60 to 80 degrees from May to October.
It was 4 to 5 days he was out there, you just said.
Variety through those days.
So this sounds like an argument that you two can have, that we don't need to have.
I didn't mean to start that argument.
What I
just
wonder
looking-
is
I'm just trying to
that,
say
you
they're
know,
suspect. We're just trying to say, you know, give us a chance to take tours and see for ourselves.
it makes me wonder though, you know, I know A1's reputation and I know Semstone has a reputation, and for the most part, they're both good. Surely this can't be the first time in 42 years that there was an issue, and if it was, you know, then why is it an issue here? Because the
Actually-
fact that samples sat out in the sun, you know, with all due respect, you're kidding yourself and me both if you think all samples aren't held like that once in a while. I'd have to see somebody that actually took the samples and put them in the cooler immediately. The other thing I don't understand is why we are referencing two different testing outfits, both of them supposedly, you know, and now you mentioned a national standard and you mentioned a national testing organization. Don't that testing organization know what's going on with the national standard, or is the national standard baloney and they use something else? I don't understand the difference between
Yeah,
two sets
if
of
there's a
data.
reason that they took the core samples, or the core samples the size that they were, was it acceptable to them, and if so, why?
Yeah,
That's, you know, and
so
why would the other size not have been done? Because
I'm
that's their business, they know.
Not to chime in, but the volume of samples taken was also considered as Kevin addressed too. We should have 3 at every location. One
Yeah,
was
I
taken
understand
from
your,
every
yeah,
location,
I understand
yeah.
your point, but I'm just asking, for the example, like you're talking about the size. Wouldn't the company, whoever you're contracting with, it's independent, wouldn't they specify something that follows your ASTM?
You'd think they would know.
That's probably a question for them.
Again, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's another question. No, I know, but is there a reason that they determined that was a size that's acceptable?
So I think the question on the table is, are we going to allow Samsung to take additional cores? If so, how many? And if so, what's going to happen when those are done? Who's responsible for filling them in? If there's more than X number of holes in a section, do we require that it be replaced? That to me sounds like that's where we are. We have to determine whether we're going to allow the additional core samples or not.
I think it's absolutely realistic that we allow them to do their samples. I mean, that's only fair. I mean, we're talking about huge chunk of money here. Absolutely. I'm not a fan of having lots more
I'd like
holes
to
in
see
my
them replace what they
concrete.
do.
What's that?
I think one thing to think about, would we have them replace that section anyway?
yes. Eh,
We are talking with 26 field tests. If they want to take 3 at each location, that is 78 cores.
Can
Yeah,
you
4 inches.
modify the way that it's done by saying, pick the worst
Yeah,
spots?
pick the
take your
worst spots
3,
and go from there.
And if it still matches what you're seeing, do you really need any more?
No, I think that's
I
good.
think that would be a reasonable way, so
That's what I was thinking.
we don't have, you know,
And in
Holes all
the,
over.
in the same spots
Same spots,
that the
yep.
cores were taken from before, so.
Yep.
If you got a 4x4 piece of concrete with 3 holes in it, figure out how you can get your other 3 holes in the same 4x4 sheet. Then you have a good comparison on a small piece of concrete that, you know, if it doesn't show improvement, you know why. Even to go to the next sheet down, you know, could mean another load. You can't, you know, you might have got another truckload of concrete or something like that, and then fill them up. I think those need to be replaced. Those with 6, those pieces with 6 holes in, they gotta be redone.
Can I ask one question? But with the curing, they're all gonna pass now anyway, right? Probably.
Not necessarily. I mean, looking at some of the deviations here, I don't know that
But
they
these are
necessarily
the
would.
first ones. Do we have any of the, from what your core samples were, what they came back at?
Of the cores itself, yeah,
the cylinders.
I mean,
or
how high
cores
are
that
they
you did.
now?
they all failed,
None of them made the 45 even?
not one of them.
Okay. I've never seen that information or heard about it, so.
But again, to the earlier point, these were at 2.7, they should be at 3.7. So I think whether they failed then or now, I think is somewhat irrelevant. So it sounds like we've said, yes, go ahead, you can do the cores, replacing the sections, right?
I'll make a motion, so it's official and it's documented.
Could I say something first here? Yes. Real quick. I think if he's gonna do these cores, and if we have to take that section of sidewalk out, I believe that what you really should do, and I think it'd be in the best interest of everybody, is that the cylinders that we took were 6-inch cores. So I really think that when he cores into the sidewalk, those should be 6-inch cores, not 3-inch, not 2-inch, not 4-inch. I think they should be exactly the same as what we took originally. So I think you get an exact, there's gonna be none of this that maybe that little core is only 4 inches, you know.
The
and
original
it's so
cylinders,
small,
yeah, the cylinders you poured were 6-inch.
or 6-inch. And the cores that we do now should be 6-inch. Because if you have 4 of those cores you're gonna put in that sidewalk, you're talking about taking that piece out anyway. So really, I think we should do them exactly the same. That way there's no question that, you know, if these fail, then we know for sure that, because we're using exactly the same cores, same size, everything.
That's good, because now you're talking about data between a 3.3-inch car and a 4-inch car and a 6-inch car. So
Exactly.
at least we'll have 2 of them the same that.
Exactly.
that's 6
And
inches.
so clarifying question on that, if you're doing cores, we're just taking out the section right now and replacing it, basically, right? I mean, you're not gonna do a core, wait for the results and then fix it and replace it, right? So you've got a
No,
whole.
we still would. We do it in the spring, because, you know, we got a 1-year warranty with the concrete. Go ahead, Eric, sorry about that.
I just think it would be in your best interest to do this in the spring.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
So then how do we deal with the bill that we have hanging out there?
No, I think the core should be done now.
Of course now, but the
Yeah.
replacement of the
Yeah,
slab would be
okay.
in the spring.
Yeah.
It's just in your best interest.
So
not-
here's,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
well, lay it out there, because we could argue this all night, I'm sure. So I'll make a motion to give Semstone permission to do additional testing, 6-inch cores. The city holds the right to request replacement of the section. So if the more sections they want to replace, they want to test, that's more potential that they'll have to replace. So that's really the driving force. And to escrow the 166,853.29 until this matter is resolved.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
We do appreciate that you
Yeah.
came.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
We
just-
did-
We had no idea how this,
Yeah.
If I may too, so those cylinders, they represent what that concrete is capable of reaching, okay, so that goes to the lab and stuff
Yep.
like that. You know, so, anyways, we have had one time, remember in marathon or whatever, we had, again, in 42 years, where it was really slow, you could kick it off, it was not curing. And ideally, you want, while you cure it, you want this stuff to cure slower. The slower it cures, the stronger it is. So say it does reach it now, that's just gonna show that you have a stronger product if these cure out. You know what I mean,
And that's the purpose why you put
we want it
a
to be
curing
good.
compound,
Yeah,
you spray
exactly.
everything with a curing compound.
Yep.
So like he says, so because the slower it cures, the stronger it is, and over time, but at some point, it starts to go down, but probably after 15 years, and I don't know what that, years that is, but it starts to lose the strength after about that long.
might not hit the 28 days, but you might actually have a better product, that 28 is for the year, just a test of,
At
when we
28
get there.
days, yeah.
All right.
Let's find out.
So say he does all those cores and it comes back and everything is good and it meets spec, where are we then? Where are we sitting with the deductions? Do we revisit? Or do we come back?
Yeah, we'll have to
Do
come
we-
back.
Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to
well,
come back, see those test
But
results.
we'll
and
set the
then-
money aside to make sure that whatever we do with,
Yeah.
in the future,
Yeah, I just didn't know though,
Yep.
since they were talking that on paper, it still didn't meet the 28. that you
We still-
And I
deduction.
we
I
still
think
have to,
we're
we'll still
still,
have to talk about it.
we're
Okay.
still talking about some deduction, I think,
Right.
because it didn't meet the spec that it was supposed to. However, if it's deemed acceptable, by the time ever we get the rest of the cars, that certainly will influence how much the final.
I think
Cost.
the overall work is good. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks good. Which is the big test is how it looks. I mean, I could walk across a 4,000 PSI or a 10,000 PSI piece of concrete. I'm not gonna know the difference. But in 20 years, my kids, when they're sitting in this chair, if they are, they're gonna know the difference because they're gonna be looking at replacing that downtown. So that's, I mean, if we want to build a good downtown, these are the details we need to get through. And I think this is the fairest way for all parties involved to move forward.
Yeah, that's what we want to. That's why we're here and we want to make sure it's fair for everybody, you know.
We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing to note, the locations of the tests that were approved when Sampson took their cores is not the exhaustive list of tests that failed. So I don't know if you guys are planning on doing the exhaustive list of tests that failed, but I would need help digging through your daily logs to figure out exactly what days those were. I know that the tests, because I think I sent you a location of about 12 locations that I know came from failed tests on those days. But there's other places like, and the city had requested to keep it out of the downtown area. So there wasn't really any core samples in the two downtown, the 100 and 200 blocks. And so there were also no tests taken in the colored concrete, but I know there's colored concrete that failed because there's no way that you will ever match that color again. Like, I mean, you can try, but even if you replace a panel, you're gonna walk through and you're gonna see that's a slightly different gray or that's a slightly different red. And it's just gonna be, and so if that's how the city wants to proceed with that, or if they'd rather not take it in the colored concrete. I know some days there were colored concrete tests, some days there was, you guys were pouring both and Darren only took out of the regular concrete and not the red stuff. And so I think I would like to propose, instead of doing all of the field tests at this point, just doing the locations that are already marked out there that Sampson has already taken cores out of, because we know those were, I know the days that that concrete was poured, and I know those are failed tests. And so if those are coming back and each one of those is failing, I don't know that it's worth it to start tearing into other concrete and having to dig through piles and piles of information and stuff to separate out, you know, this was poured this day and it failed, but then your pour mark was here and this started and this passed. It's going to be a really long and tedious process to do that. And so I've gone through that process to a certain degree already. And I guess if the council is okay with it, and if Sunstone is okay with it, starting at those approximately 12 locations with their 3 cores and seeing how those come out.
Yeah, you should be able to interpolate data from
Should be able to
12
see a pattern at that
locations
point.
into the rest of it.
If they match.
If they all come up good, you can probably assume the rest of them are gonna come up good. If they all come up bad, you know, you can pretty much assume the rest of them are gonna be bad too, yet.
Is that fair to you guys? Samsung?
That makes sense to you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, I've got that sheet that shows exactly what day the test was, so it'll correlate with the test results that you have from American Engineering and Testing already for the cylinder breaks. And you'll be able to take your cores in that area, but I just don't know I mean, when they're pouring concrete for a week straight and one test on Wednesday passes and the other ones fail, it's hard to tell where that test, you know, which one failed and which one didn't. So,
Is it, okay, you said 12, but actually what we did is, I think we did 17, because I did 5 more after what you did. I
okay,
decided to do a couple more and, you know, just to make sure in that last stuff we poured on the September 20th and 21st.
okay,
And so I did 5 more, so if they want to do all 17, they can, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know.
I guess you can get them that information then.
Yep.
You have the PDF document from me.
Yep.
And you can add your stuff to it, and I'll leave it at that you guys can coordinate that. Does that sound fair?
Okay, yep, that's fair to me.
And
And
American Engineering already marked on it, so it should be pretty simple to find the locations.
How does this affect our funding?
Job still has to be finalized out by December 1st. Well, by December 31st, but your council meeting is December 1st where we would consider this. So I think at this point, I would have to talk to Dave Rasmussen just to make sure. But from what I see is we draft a change order for $166,000. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you've gone through this before, please jump in. But we would draft a change order for $166,000 and write a letter that goes along with that states this is going in escrow to be figured out at a future time, once we can get the concrete core results and everything and have more of a chance to talk about this again. If I guess the option that we have is if you guys think these cores are gonna come back quickly, if you're gonna, jump on this and get it back, let's say you get it back next week. Theoretically, we could discuss this matter at the council meeting on December 1st and come back and schedule a special council meeting sometime in December, whether that's right before committee in the whole of December, just to consider change order and pay request for this project. So
I got one more thought. Just if the concrete fails, you've got all these holes in the concrete, they're supposed to replace it. But Samson's mad, somebody's gonna be mad. What's gonna make them come back and replace that concrete?
We've been in business for 42 years and still want to work here again next year if it comes up, so.
We'll put that in writing.
Okay, thank you. That's, you know what I'm saying.
We've
I could
been
just,
around 95.
I know, but
Yeah.
And we still have their money.
We can pour 4 slabs of concrete for 166.
So here's the other question that we didn't really talk about. What sort of timeline are we talking here? I mean, are we talking this is gonna be done in 2 weeks? Are we gonna, 2 months? Is this gonna be finished before the end of the year? Will these samples and stuff be done that we can potentially have some answers back by early December, mid-December? So
That's
we can
reasonable. The
finalize this?
replacement will be in the spring.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So we do have our next council meeting is the first,
Mhm.
December
So-
1st.
so that would be the first opportunity to have the information and discuss
By
it.
then, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, great.
that's great.
I got another question though, but he was talking about the replacement of the sections to be in the spring, but still where we do the cores, that's still gotta get filled in now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The
Just wanna make
company
sure we're
that
clear with
takes
that.
the cores will fill them in.
We were talking about putting medallions in.
Let's not.
Sell a medallion.
All right, so yes, that'd be great. Do you want to make a motion to that?
That money would be in escrow, so if it doesn't get resolved December 1st, that's still okay, right? Because you're gonna build that money in escrow anyway.
Yeah.
Right, we need to finish it off by the end
So,
of the
but
year.
if he doesn't get the results back by December 1st, is what I'm saying.
If we
You're
have
just gonna put
to,
the money in escrow and then move on from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
On to agenda item number 3.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
We're good.
All in favor?
Hi.
is there a second? I'm asking for a second.
Yeah.
it was behind.
Okay. All those in favor?
We got one.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. That's a hard habit to break. isn't it?